Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world.
Hello, friends. Now, before some of you get upset and write negative comments, please listen to my entire discussion. At the very least, I think you'll see why I'm taking the position I do. So today, diversity is given a very high value in our society. In fact, it somehow became more highly prized than education, experience, and accomplishment, and that is one of the issues I have with it. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood that was 90% Italian American, so it was a homogeneous community for the most part. But adjoining us on the east was a neighboring African American community, and on our west, there was a Hispanic community. And you know what? Every day we went to school together, and every day during the summer, we all played together on the playground, ball games, riding our bikes, kid stuff, or just hanging out. And not only that, but we also went to school with Irish Americans, Polish Americans, German Americans, and children of a host of other nationalities. And we didn't see race or ethnicity. We were all one and the same. We were friends, and it worked out very well. In fact, I had an African American as my primary care physician, but after I moved to another city, the only doctor accepting new patients was German American, so I had him as my new doctor. It didn't matter, as long as they both held MDs and had excellent credentials and recommendations. Enter the 21st century, and for some reason, now diversity is being hailed as the new and greatest value, as if it didn't exist before. But this isn't diversity. This is an artificial, contrived, synthetic, counterfeit diversity, forced fed upon the public in an indiscriminate and, at times, harmful manner. Let me give you an example. Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York State gave a directive to the State University of New York to increase faculty diversity. He essentially ordered them to hire 1,000 college professors from minority groups. So, if you applied for a faculty position at any of the 64 New York State colleges and thought you had an equal chance at being hired as dependent upon your expertise and academic qualifications, you would be sorely wrong in that appraisal. They are being told behind closed doors to hire minorities over anyone else, a fact that is, well, blatantly racist and discriminatory. But in New York State, as elsewhere, the value of diversity was raised to a status of honor above other traditionally held and prized values. And if you think I'm wrong, I know a teacher that was told in her interview that they liked her and wanted to hire her, except they had to fill the position with a person of color, period. That school district was ordered to hire a person of color despite someone with excellent, if not superior, qualifications because, well, diversity. As an aside, there is absolutely no evidence that people of any color teach better or make better police officers or firemen or accountants or lawyers or doctors. So again, evidence lacking, these are simply political decisions. Now, a point I would like to make is this. While America is the melting pot of the world, and I am pleased to see that, there are groups and cultures which should not diversify, and I am as serious about that. If you are a practicing Catholic and your religion is important to you, you should marry a Catholic and raise your family Catholic. To diversify by marrying a spouse of any other religion will contaminate your practice and more often than not will be the end of that practice of your faith, at least for your children and the next generation. The same is true if you are Jewish. If you marry outside the Jewish faith, then again, more often than not, the practice of your faith will diminish within your family, and ultimately, the Jewish practices will die out within a generation or so. And the same is true if you're Amish, a Mennonite, a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints, and so on. If you're Italian, Polish, Irish, or Native American and want to continue your traditions and culture, you need to marry within your ethnic group. Diversity is a killer to the purity of cultures and the customs and traditions of those cultures. Another point is about diversity in the workplace. While it is a good idea in concept, Research has found that in the workplace, diversity can lead to conflict and misunderstandings and all types of problems. In businesses and even in schools, research has found that diversity can lead to in-group favoritism and even self-segregation. In group dynamics, researchers found that with less diversity, you do get better outcome performance. In other words, when you are of, quote, like minds, you can often work better and more efficiently and problem solve with fewer interpersonal conflicts. And across the board, as often as not, diversity opens up and exposes a wide range of other issues, such as communication differences, cultural differences, different values, different norms, different work ethics, different dress standards, and a host of other issues that, while not necessarily problematic, certainly can be problematic by causing unforeseen clashes and inadvertent differences in discord. Just look at our political system. Despite Democrats or Republicans winning the majority, for the most part, change has been incremental and manageable. But as of late, we have had a great divergence. We have had ultra progressives winning elections, and this level of diversity, based upon political and sociological ideology, has caused reversals of many important and effective policies, and has even resulted in chaotic policies causing inflation, defunding the police, increases in crime and violence, and increasing national debt, and so on. And of course, one of the biggest issues with diversity is that by itself, it can and sometimes does instill further discrimination. A recent study showed that by far, Asians and Asian Americans perform the best on entrance exams for prestigious Ivy League colleges. As such, they should be admitted to these colleges in overwhelming numbers because they deserve it by hard work and study. Yet these colleges had an internal and unspoken role of diversity, and that translated into a lopsided quota system which effectively discriminated against the higher performing Asians to include accepting lower qualifying groups into college. In other words, they changed the playing field and gave preferential treatment based upon race, and in this case, because they valued diversity above all other goals, people who were more deserving were inadvertently hurt. They were directly harmed by the colleges holding the idea of diversity above all other merits. And in one police department, preference was actually given to ethnic minority officers for promotions to senior officer ranks in preference to white officers for the clearly stated purpose of increasing the number of senior Black officers. And again, this was despite achievement, performance, awards and recognitions, continued education, and other variables. And the final issue I want to say about diversity is that united we stand and divided we fall. With some diversity, the status quo can continue to operate effectively and smoothly, and ultimately you will have assimilation into the collective. But with too much diversity, the system changes, and what was is no longer, and then failure occurs, and you will find that the final product of this new ideology of diversity is not what many expected, and to be honest, or what they would have you believe. I also had a college course once where the final grade depended upon the level of integration and cooperation we all had. And as this was a participatory and performance-based course, it was extremely important that we all work together in unison. But I quickly saw that different students had different goals, different customs, and different morals. In this course, some wanted great wealth and subverted others to achieve it. Some wanted power and subjugated others to achieve it. Some wanted prestige, some status, some security. And the number of issues from this great diversity actually caused a system-wide failure, and the game, the project, came crashing down. We failed as a group to achieve any of our goals for that class. And finally, there are several countries in Europe right now that are seeing a major breakdown of their culture because of indiscriminate diversity, because they let too many people into their countries without vetting them, and their cultures, their governments, their educational and housing and welfare systems simply are not prepared to handle the customs and traditions that some foreigners have brought in. Things there have become unpredictable, even chaotic. According to one friend, he said there are parts of Europe you just wouldn't even recognize today. So what I'm saying is that yes, of course, there is a place for diversity. There always was and always will be, but it needs to make sense. It has to be natural, gradual, and with a rational basis. Overall, diversity can and usually does create a mutual understanding and respect for everyone's differences. It creates a more open and accepting environment where everyone feels comfortable, and it can take strengths and resources from many cultures and blend them into a greater whole in a synergistic manner. So I'm not arguing against diversity. I'm simply saying that it is only one of the values that we should prize, and not necessarily the greatest of those. There are other traditionally held values that may be more important, such as freedom, justice, performance, standards, personal character, and morals. I'm also saying, though, that diversity works best when it happens naturally and is not forced upon a population, especially in an artificial, contrived, indiscriminate, and prejudicial way, because it can do more harm than good. In fact, that's why we have laws exactly against that. Hey, be safe, be well, and may God bless.